Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you guys are having an incredible day. It's so wonderful to be here. It's such a joy. We are having a little bit of a technical issue with our bandwidth. So we're going to just kind of hold space and hope that we can get through this without it blocking on us or, throwing us off the challenge, off the live. So anyway, today we have a really important day. We're going to be talking about a lot of I've been getting a lot of messages from people about a lot of challenging emotional experiences this week and also this month. I believe that we're going to be taking a look at a lot of emotional things this month. So let's sit and work with this information so that we can prepare in the work that we're doing. So let me go ahead and open really quickly the live. I'm not finding the live on my, oh, here it is. Just a moment, let me find this, and I am going to share this. If you would kindly, hi everyone, Andy, RR2, Maria, so great to see you. I'm just going to post this live. If you guys can help me by sharing this live, that would be wonderful. Jean Paul, welcome. Everybody that's here on the Zoom with me, welcome. So wonderful to see you. Let's go ahead and jump on here. All right. Hi, John. Hi, Charles. Hello, Emma, Liza, Nelly. Wonderful. All right, guys, so let's get started. So we are doing a challenge this month. We're going to be talking about some of the processes of life and death, and anytime that we get stagnant in that process of eliminating the things that no longer serve us. This is always something very challenging for us to do because we become deeply, deeply attached to things in a way that our life force is just depleted out of ourselves. So how do we create a very healthy sense of self, regardless of how we are interacting with the things around us? And this is one of the biggest challenges for a lot of people, is the idea of becoming an identity. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, and let's talk really about how energetically we become identified with things in such a way that, you know, it's a quite strong attachment, the energetic attachment that occurs. Literally, we have cords connecting ourselves to the world around us. And these energetic cords are information, they're data that we're throwing back and forth. So how do we call back our life force in order to create neutrality, in order to own back our center core empowerment, and to rebalance the exchanges that we're exchanging with the things around us? One of the things that makes these interconnections so strong is that they are originating from the parts of us that are wounded. Okay, so when the attachment towards something is originating in the parts of us that are deeply wounded or feeling empty or not enough, what happens is that the strength of that cord is a very dense, low vibrational frequency. And so it gets very difficult to neutralize this cord in a point where it's just very difficult to eliminate that out of the body. Okay, so we're going to talk about that, because what happens is, and I want to talk about the layers of our body and how the chakra systems are holding on to this data of attachment from the body in such a way that every single one of your energy centers is vibrating at a very specific vibrational frequency. And the cords that you're experiencing attaching to another are going to connect to the part of the body in which the wounding exists. Okay, so wherever we have a wounding subconsciously within the energy range frequencies of the chakra system, this is what will connect us, and of course, to begin with, create a resonance with the other people, place, or thing in which we are connecting to. And then that connection then becomes reinforced by the repetitive wiring and firing of the neural pathways that are reinforcing the belief system, that sustain that vibrational resonance. So when it comes to attachment, in order to neutralize that, essentially, we have to neutralize that wound in order to open up the frequency, to raise the vibrational frequency of the whole as a collective, in order to allow for that to begin to dissolve. Now, we can become attached to many different things, thoughts, ideas, belief systems, people, places, things. And these attachments will vary in the density based on how we are experiencing trauma, how we have experienced past memories with these similar experiences. So the experiences will trigger certain emotions in us. And essentially, what we want to understand is what exactly is being triggered by this experience. What's being triggered? And the whole point of identifying what is being triggered is in order for us to begin to understand where we are holding stagnant belief systems that don't support us in our expansive, in our ability to be one with everything. Because you might think that attachment is you becoming one with whatever it is that you're connecting with, but in reality, it's a form of separation. Because what is happening is when we attach to something external to us, we are completely fractalizing ourselves within ourselves first, right? And the fractalization of the self is a fractalization of the self with the source. So there's a ripping and a disconnect of the self with the source. We become individuated and we become identified with the individuation of that separation. And secondly, because we are now identified in that state of separation, we will look externally for a source of unity. And so what happens is that we begin to search outside of us for that sense of unity and bind and connect to something external to us that makes us feel anywhere close to the unity of the source, which is ourselves. So there are two parts here. This is, again, changing and shifting the centrifugal spin of the body, which is essentially where our energy vortices are depleting our life force. We are depleting life force because our attention is seeking externally to fulfill that internal void, okay, that internal disconnect from our core self. And so to neutralize that and to be able to come back to a state of sovereign reconnection, a sovereign reconnection in which we are completely in a state of awareness, very aware of our physical body, our emotions, our thoughts, in a way that will allow us to clearly choose what we are connecting and interacting with in a way that will support our growth and our expansion. And the conscious way to connect with things, rather, is a symbiotic relationship of giving and receiving that is harmonious, okay? And so that harmonious exchange, this can be in relationships, it can be with your belief systems even, because a lot of people, and we tend to kind of go back into these cyclical patterns of depleting ourselves, of looking outside of us, even with concepts of spirituality or of course religious concepts, that we look for the deity, the God, the angel, the angelic being, the high 11th dimensional Arcturian that we want to, connect to, and we become identified with a certain role. Please remember that every time that you become identified with something, you are assigning yourself a role. So you want to understand what role you're playing. And a good way to kind of understand the role that you're playing is by looking at creator states, because they're going to be the ones that will show you whether you are depleting your life force or if you are becoming a source of regeneration and co-creation. Okay, so if you take a look at this chart of creation states, who is your God, right? So that's the question, like, who is the God? Or is our God the external? Is it material? Is it looking outside of us? Are we in constant states of protection? Are we seeking power? Whatever we value the most, looking at our core values, and most of our core values are usually designed based on our states of survival. Where and how we think we are in states of survival and what we need to support that survival will usually create the belief systems that we have that will either deplete your life force or regenerate it. So if you take a look at this creator chart, whoever your God is, right? If your God is power, what you become the opposite of that, right? You become the seeker of that, and that totally creates a role for you subconsciously, emotionally, which then, of course, bioelectrically changes the shape of your geometry, of your co-creation potential. For example, in the example of the having a God of power, power is really important to you. You need to have power. You know, what you value is action, right? You believe that your actions will be the ones that will gain you that power. But in the process, what you become is ambitious, right? You are constantly seeking through ambition, and it can be spiritual ambition. It can be we can become identified with anything that we believe, and what happens is that we are constantly in states of separation, reacting to the external things outside of us, and therefore our actions also become reactive. Okay, we are supporting the belief system that the external is what is required. Okay. So in the same way, the higher you go up the chart of creation states into a constant state of pure knowing, let's say your God is pure knowing, right? Just the existence, pure consciousness. You become someone that is in a state of constant awareness. Now, none of this is just something that you can tell yourself, oh, I'm going to be in a state of pure knowing. There are layers to reaching these states that every human must undergo, because every single ladder of this creation chart is a deprogramming. It is a cultivation of your life force. It's a cultivation of your frequency. It's a cultivation of your DNA. Okay, because your frequency, DNA is the output of your frequency. And vice versa, your frequency is informed by your DNA. So whatever programs you have running subconsciously within you are going to be running these programs in the back end that will then inform what you're creating in this moment. So we want to be aware of how we are throwing energy in and out. The way that our body creates chords and allocates them in the body is based on vibrational frequency. Okay, so where in the body we are storing the program and the belief system of the imbalance of duality, we will hold that frequency in the body. So if our imbalance and if our external requirement is based on the feminine, right? The feminine qualities, the feminine traits are imbalanced within our subconscious mind through these experiences. This is the part of your body that will become affected. And what we need to learn essentially how to do is how to rebalance these perceptions. It's very easy when the body has a certain intelligence. It has a certain intelligence of how to embody wholeness. Okay, when we are feeling incomplete in any one area of our expression, in these dualistic forms, essentially that weakening of these programs within us affect the entire shape of our geometry. So if, for example, our trauma is embedded by the male, let's say the father, not being fully present there will always be a sense of lack, a subconscious lack, or needing the attention of the male or the connection of the male. And that pursuit then becomes who you are. That is then manifested into a physical form, and essentially the entire body is depleting the life force in pursuit of the completion of this energy. Okay, so this is really, really important. And how we can actually do that is by beginning to heal these wounds. Okay. This is what we need to take a look at. And the most important part in this integration process of rebalancing things is that we carefully identify what is the wounding, okay? So wherever the wounding is within your body, just first identify the trigger. So what is being triggered by this attachment that we have, person, place, thing, whatever it is, and what emotion does it trigger in you? That emotion will guide you to identify where in your body you are storing this belief system, where in the body you're storing the belief system, where you are stagnant in the life force flow of your energy in your body. Okay, this is incredibly important. And so what will happen is that because we are designed to be co-creators, when we have a lot of attachments, every single one of these thought forms then becomes a cord in the body. If you can imagine cords coming out of the body here, let me just, I fix this for us here. I'm going to just create this. So if you can imagine cords coming out to any people, place, and thing that we might be attaching to external to us, essentially the body ends up looking pretty, connected, and it's just all of the life force. None of it is going inwardly. It is all going outwardly. Okay. So how do we redirect the energy back to the body so that the body can now be the regenerating source? Now, keep in mind that because we are conduits of life force, we are designed, our entire physical body, based on how this bioelectrical structure of the chakra system is designed, we are designed to be a piezoelectric type of function that essentially creates, through the transmutation of the lower emotions, into a high frequency emotion. Okay, so how do you become the transduction mechanism is by cultivating these the lower body integrating into one, the same with the heart and the same with the third eye, right? So the lower, the middle, and the upper dantian need to come into integration. That integration can only occur if the life force is flowing inwardly. Anytime the life force is bleeding out of the body outwardly, depleting, this is where the human becomes weakened in many different ways. And to become weak means to become separate, okay? When we become weakened when we believe that we are separate, first within ourselves, okay? All of these parts becoming compartmentalized, separate parts of ourselves. There is no integration, there's no connection, there's no communication between mind, body, and soul in the body. It becomes completely disconnected. So to reopen those runways of communication, essentially, we have to redirect the attention back inward. What the chords that we begin to, first we have to identify what are the chords that are connecting to the body, okay? So first of all, the chord is a vibrational frequency based on your thought form. So again, as you identify the trigger, the emotion at the end of that trigger, okay, so let's say something is triggering a feeling of unworthiness, okay, so go into the heart center, the feeling of unworthiness in the heart. You begin to notice it feels a very contractive, stagnant energy in the heart. You're going to sit with that difficult emotion, that very strong, stagnant emotion. Some of you might be having illnesses in those parts of the body, most likely, if you haven't addressed it before. And I want to really, really remind you that anytime, see, emotions are not an enemy. They are a tool. They are a tool for freedom and liberation and expansion. But in our culture, we run away from emotions so deeply, because we are programmed to move away from discomfort into instant gratification, where we don't want to sit with these difficult emotions. And what happens is that we look for something to quickly satiate that deep need or the deep wounding. It can be anything. It could be going to do the laundry. It can be, just avoiding it, cleaning, doing work, getting lost in your work, traveling. It can be drugs, it can be alcohol, it can be relationships. We just seek in anything and everything possible to remove us from that discomfort. But the discomfort is actually the key to your freedom, and it can actually be done quite quickly because it doesn't take years to deprogram this emotion if you understand what you're looking for within that emotion. Okay, the whole point of the emotion, it's not to get stuck in this sensation body. Most of us, we get stuck in the sensation body, which means that you feel that strong stagnant energy in your chest and it feels so uncomfortable and it feels overwhelming. You might feel afraid. You might feel that if you observe that emotion, it's going to intensify and you're going to pass out. These are very real concerns because some of us have been storing massive amounts of information in the body. And what happens is that as a child, if you have been experiencing these emotions over and over again, chances are you have years and years of suppressing and avoiding that emotion without having the proper tools to understand how to transcend that emotion. Okay, so that limitation of being able to transcend that emotion will cause you to get stuck in a state of suffering and pain. So essentially, you're going to exist in that pain for as long as you avoid it. And that pain in the body, emotional pain in the body, is the seed of illness. It is the seed of disconnect. It's the seed of all the imbalance and disharmonious expressions in which the body becomes counter-creative. The body cannot create in the state in which it's in a state of pain and suffering all the time, which is why suffering is not the normal. Okay, this is important to understand because the thing is, in our society, because we are socially engineered through so many different wrong concepts of what we are and who we are. We have all kinds of things telling us constantly what we should be, how we should feel, why we should feel that way. And it's all inverted. This holographic matrix is an experience of inversion and separation in order for the human to experience itself being recollected as one with all. So we have to be very mindful and observe this external realm from that perspective. Okay, how can we reconnect with the parts of us that have been severed through the wrong ideas of separation? When someone does something to us, immediately we become identified with that action and we apply all kinds of meanings, and we immediately give ourselves a role. And the role can be the victim role, the role can be the loneliness role, the anger role, right? It can be the role of just constant suffering. And so when we identify with this role, it begins to, because all of our life force and attention is being directed to this part of us that we cannot resolve, we cannot understand, we cannot neutralize, what ends up happening is that the body just magnifies. It will magnify this concept within that part of ourselves. It'll magnify the concept within our part of ourselves, and that becomes our vibrational frequency, which means that we continue to attract the repetition of this feeling over and over again with other people, other things, other experiences. So the goal is then, if the human wants to become sovereign and free from this state of suffering, essentially, is you yourself have to allow yourself to feel the emotion deeply, observe it. And the observation is key, okay? Observing an emotion is completely different than getting stuck in the feeling body, because when you observe an emotion, you're going to do a couple things. First of all, you're going to begin to look at it in a way that you are looking from the outside in, and you're going to observe what that emotion is going to do. You're going to notice how different muscles in your body contract. Excuse me. You're going to notice how certain emotions are triggered as a result of that observation of that emotion. You're going to notice how your nervous system reacts. And what will happen, the beauty of this beautiful intelligence organism, is that once you start observing an emotion, you begin to access memories of other times that you have experienced this emotion in a way that has triggered these similar emotions. Okay, so what happens is that trauma, it's like encoded with a certain vibrational frequency, patterns of behavior in the body, patterns of how nervous system responds, patterns of biochemical responses in the body, neural pathways. It's like an entire package of information, trauma, okay, that is recorded multidimensionally in the body. It is recorded in your subconscious mind through your psyche. It is recorded in the physical body through your response survival mechanisms. And spiritually, as a soul, it is recorded in your DNA as repetitive memories that you may have addressed many lifetimes. Okay, because remember that the nature of this entire universe, of this matrix, is cyclical, not only encoded within the cycles of our own physical body, but encoded within the way that this entire universe is functioning. Everything is cyclical. And if we don't understand how to navigate the cycles, the cyclical nature of this universe, essentially we're never going to understand how to transcend these limiting belief systems. You have to wake up consciousness, come into the present moment in a state of observation in order to observe when you are repeating a pattern, when you are repeating the exact same belief system. And the part of you that is in states of survival and preservation is highly intelligent in masking some of these root core contributions by playing on the role that you created for yourself. So let's say severe trauma as a child causing you to feel that you're a victim, okay, a state of victimization, okay? So that constant state of victimization then plays out a role in creating a personality that you have this grandiose personality about yourself. And essentially, in order to suppress the feelings of unworthiness that you have within you, states of victim, you play out this giant personality in the world, and you create all kinds of hobbies to keep you completely attentive outside, away from this pain ever. So that constant running away from these severe internal parts of us, then you have to understand life choices are made from there, experiences, and all of them are part of this life experience, but it's our relationship with how we see them that will either cause us suffering and chaos or healing and expansion. Okay, so this is the whole point. Now, let's talk about the chords of the physical body. What happens, our body essentially looks like this. I mean, we are literally just a network of information that is corded through runways of frequency connecting to our physical body. And these runways they function just like neural pathways. Okay, so remember, neural pathways, they kind of have these little tentacle-like things that reach out into those connections. And when those connections are made, that's what allows that firing of information back and forth from one neural pathway to another. When we fire that neural pathway over and over again, we are strengthening that belief system, which it's encoded by a vibrational frequency. So just the same way, remember, as above, so below, just the same way that we have this program in the way that in our mind, in our brain, in our psyche, we are creating these strengthened runways of energy and information patterns. We are also doing that with our bodies. Okay, this is really huge. So think of this the same way that neural pathways are created in the brain. Our entire body as a whole organism is creating these pathways of information from ourselves to the external world, everything outside of us, people, places, and things. So in order to, and we are always interconnected. I want to make sure you understand that it's not the fact that we're corded that is the problem, but just like a toxic thought form that we are reinforcing over and over again in our neural pathways, if the information that you are throwing back and forth between yourself and another is negative, again, there's a consequence to that. Your vibrational frequency will have a cap. It will only reach a certain level, and it won't be able to transcend that vibrational frequency that you're creating. It can only reach a certain level. So if all of your relationships are mirroring programs of unworthiness, your vibrational frequency is completely defined by that. Okay, that's the frequency that you're creating in your body. So how do we release these chords? I want to also mention one other thing about this, and I'm not sure how I can show you that here, but okay, let's go to the image of the chakras. I want to quickly look at, let's look at microscopically, what do these chords in the body look like? Okay, so first of all, remember that you are kind of like a field of information. Okay, and we have access points in the body based on vibrational frequency from lowest to highest, and every single part of your body. Okay, so remember, vibrational frequency from lowest to highest, your organs, every single one of your organs is oscillating at a certain vibrational frequency. Every single one, every part of your body, the right, the left, the front, the back, all are having a certain vibrational frequency, and collectively it creates this network of information. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like in the body. Essentially, in the matrix, in the holographic structure, this is essentially what the holographic structure of your reality looks like. If you were to draw it out, you essentially are existing inside of these fields. Okay, so remember that every single chakra system is housing a certain range of dimensions within it. Okay, so every chakra projects out based on the vibrational frequency that you're holding in the chakras, and everything has duality. So the chakras have a higher and a lower aspect to them. If you're operating and you're co-creating from your DNA, projecting and reinforcing through your everyday life in those chakras a certain vibrational pattern of behavior, then what's happening is that it is enlarged in your space. It becomes a filter of perception. That DNA is projected through your chakra system, which is of course your endocrine system, which will define the kind of biochemicals that you're secreting, which will define the electromagnetic field that you're cultivating, which means the vibrational frequency, which means that that field of your body either becomes enlarged and reinforced with the input or weakened. Okay, so what we're doing essentially in this construct, in this plane, these planes of existence that we're creating, our reality exists within these fields right here. So all the rainbow body of this individual that I'm showing you in this picture here, essentially where the attention of this individual is, okay, if their attention is on survival, then the entire field of this body will be intricately designed and cultivated by all the programs of survival, which consist of different vibrational frequencies, different thought forms of survival. And we can create a plethora of ideas around survival, why we need to survive, how we need to survive. The emotions that we attach to being in states of survival are all charges emotional, vibrational frequency charges that we're inputting into this system of projection. The hologram of this matrix is here within this field, within your body. You within you have the entire world, the construct that you've created. Okay, first your physical body, then the way that you perceive things, and then of course the physical construct, which is the densest matter form of vibrational frequency manifested into all of the imagery, space-time that's created within this holographic construct. So the house that you live in, the furniture that's around you, the colors that you chose around you, the people that are around you are all a projection of this hologram of the DNA that is embedded with the software of this earth realm, which you are navigating. And within your universe, this is one universe that you're creating, essentially is existing all of the codes, the software and the information needed for you to navigate and experience your life based on your highest and lowest potential. And again, when a soul incarnates into a family lineage, into an ancestral lineage, when you incarnate here on earth, the invitation is to experience temporary separation in order to return back to unity. That's the highest level perspective of your existence. How you do that is up to you. And essentially how you either suffer or you enjoy that journey is also up to you. Okay, the consequences are huge. The consequences of your choices are essentially going to define the quality of your experience here. They're going to define the quality of your vitality, your health, your well-being, how you cultivate life force in your body, how you exchange with the world around you. The kind of experiences, people that you attract into your life are all based on the output of this information. So your power of co-creation is extremely powerful. Your ability to co-create is completely defined on how you see and feel yourself, the filters of perception. So the chakras, let's go micro, even deeper now into the chakras and how these chords work. All of those thought forms, each one of those thought forms, all of those programs that are embedded in your DNA at the time of birth, inherited through the mitochondria, through the mother, are essentially organized through vibrational frequency through each one of the chakras. Each one of the chakras look like this, okay? So every single one of your endocrine organs creates a magnetic field, and all magnetic fields essentially have runways of energy because magnetic fields are functioning in a toroidal motion. Okay, that's how the oscillation pattern of any one of these, to the quantum level of anything is creating a toroidal field, which is that spiral design that this universe has taken in nature. Okay, so the way that it organizes, the way information is organized in this matrix is through a spiral expression. And everything functions that way. That spiral expression is what creates that toroidal flow. The toroidal flow that moves from your body around you, the toroidal flow that moves through your chakra system, and the toroidal flow that is moving through the universe at large. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and put your questions in capital letters. I will answer your questions at the end of this. At the end of this. Okay. So let's go back. Hold on. Let me go back here to this. So the toroidal flow of everything, right? So how energy is moving through your body is also functioning. Is that how your DNA is moving at the quantum level? How DNA coils essentially is oscillating in that same way. Okay, so we understand that. Let's go back to look at the chakras in this micro format. The chakras itself, the toroidal field, this is like looking at one of those macro photographs of a chakra. okay? The energetic field of a chakra is created by microcoils that are also spinning to create the vortex, okay? So each one of these microcoils is essentially holographic DNA. Holographic DNA, it's encoded with massive amounts of information, and it's arranged, the way that these microcoils are arranged is by ranges of frequency. From lowest to highest, each one of these microcoils that create the field of your chakra system, which create the filters of perception in your matrix, okay, your holographic construct, are encoded with information. Now, what happens when we become traumatized, any kind of trauma? What does that mean? What is trauma? Trauma means that you experience something, and in the brain filing cabinet of how to address that experience, you're missing information, okay? So for example, someone gives you a dirty look, you go into your filing cabinet, you look at all the dirty looks you've ever gotten, and you begin to assess how you responded in that situation. But you notice that this situation is different, okay? There's let's say this is a dirty look from your lover or your partner, and therefore it creates this survival mechanism in which you've never experienced that before in that same way, that vibrational frequency of that experience. You can't find that file in your cabinet. So that disconnect between finding the response that will feel safest for your survival in that moment, is inaccessible. This is where we go into the fight, flight, or freeze. Okay, immediately fight, flight, or freeze. So your reaction to this simple scenario of a look, okay, and the reason why I choose this example, because it's very simple, right? It can happen any moment of your day at any time with anyone. And I want you to understand that, because we experience this trauma, and that literally affects your organism in a profound way based on how you're going to respond to this experience. Tiny little example, it can be a minute in your day, but this speaks to the fact of how important your awareness of yourself is. Because the reason why we cannot find within the filing cabinet how to respond to this experience is because in that moment, we're deeply disconnected from ourselves. We're disconnected from our emotions. We're disconnected with how we feel. We don't even know how we ended up in this relationship or this experience. We don't know how we got to the situation of unconsciousness, in which we don't even know how we ended up with having that reaction from the other person, you see? And we ended up in this situation because we were unconscious all the prior moments before that. We are in constant state of survival, constant state of disconnect from this body in such a way that we don't know how to interact in the present moment. We don't know ourselves so deeply. We deeply are ignorant of ourselves, okay? So this internal ignorance, this internal disconnect from the self, in that tiny little example, creates a contraction in your body, which is the fight, flight, or freeze. The fight, flight, or freeze will immediately create a response mechanism based on the best that we know in that moment, that feels the best. And keep in mind, this can be influenced by your hormonal states, your biochemical states. It can be influenced by, your connection to your body. So, if you've eaten that day, if you've taken care of yourself, if you're completely abandoned, if you have a subconscious belief system of loneliness, all of these things play a role in how you're going to respond in that moment. And what happens to the physical body when the body goes through constant self-abuse, constant self-neglect, constant disconnect, of the mind and body, is that we create tears in our field, holes in our multidimensional body. Those holes look like this. Okay, so first let's look at the hole. So imagine this is the vortex here, just using this visual of how the vortex is expressed. At the very center of this vortex is essentially the endocrine system that is connected inside of your body to the multiple organs, nervous system, muscle systems, and then of course the other fields of your body, right? So within this subtle body of, let's say this is the root chakra, okay, the program here is tremendously, it's severed here. The body is severed, okay, the first layer of your body in the root chakra, and it's on the left side. So on the left side of the body, which represents the feminine, right? So the feminine energy on the left side is completely contracted in this individual. Okay, so what the body will look like when you look at this individual's body is essentially the entire left side of their body is empty. Okay, for those of you that are psychic, when you look at a body, you begin to see that whole side of that body being contracted. It'll also show if this person has a lot of holes in a lot of the chakras on the left side of the body, this will weaken the immune system on that side. It'll weaken the function of the organs on that side of the body. So a lot of people have like one left or right side in where they have all the problems. They always get bruised there, they always get cut there, they always have problems on that side of the body. This is a code, okay, to understand yourself, to learn about yourself, because it's telling you something. It's telling you where you are imbalanced in your duality. What duality? The duality of your feminine and masculine energies, okay? So if the left side of your body has all the problems and complications, this is where you are holding imbalance in your body, okay? So let's go back to the example of the chakra system. It is essentially what happens here with this body that is completely interrupted and torn on that side of the body. Essentially what we need to do is we need to heal this, okay? When we have holes in the body, guess what happens to those holes? Guess what is creating those holes? Thought forms, okay? So let's go back to the simple example of the dirty look that we had here, okay, from the partner. It could be a man or a woman, but depending on where your trauma is, again, pay attention to your own personal case. It will affect where you are creating the hole in your body, okay? Either the feminine or the masculine side of your body. The front of the body represents the masculine, the back of the body represents the feminine. The feminine always represents the subconscious mind. The feminine always represents the intuition, okay? So this is what we need to take a look at that. So let's take a look at this part of the body of the person that is disconnected on the left side. What happens? There's a hole that is created, and what's creating this hole is a cord of information. What this individual will look like is that from their chakra system, let me see if I can find an image that will help us visualize this better right here, okay? Basically the entire part of the body of this individual that has a hole there will be open. So this entire side will be holding that cord, okay? Hold on one moment. Let me get my marker here. Okay. So here is the thought form. And so what's happening in this part of the chakra, okay, is it creates a tear. So wherever there is holes in your auric field, and you can literally check right now at your multidimensional body, and if you visualize a bubble around you and it feels difficult to imagine some part of your body, okay, it's because you have a hole, a tear in that part of your body. It's an unconscious part of you. It's a part of you that doesn't have your awareness because you went into fight or flight. So the fight or flight that is created by this thought form is reinforced. The cord that is created here, so imagine this blue thing that I drew here, not very good, but it is a cord connecting to another, okay? Let's say it's the person that gave us that dirty look, okay? that look that we got, essentially, that cord that we created, is reinforced. The person starts going into their mind in survival mode, trying to think of how to respond to this look. It begins to trigger memories within the body, within the organism, through the organs that are connected to this frequency, of other moments in which we felt inadequate, unloved, rejected, so on and so forth. Okay, so these cords, just that tiny little example, created this hole in the body. You walk around throughout your day with a hole in the body because that little look that you got in the morning. And what happens is that you are so imbalanced throughout your day that your life force is leaking through this cord completely, because you're not in the present moment. Your attention isn't aware of what caused you a disconnect. Now, what happens to people over time when they have lots of cords in their body, they don't want to be inside the body, okay? They begin to experience a disassociation. In psychology, you become disassociated completely because the circumstances are so many and so overwhelming that there is never, we don't have the tool, and we don't remember that we simply have to reconnect with ourselves and sit with this uncomfortable emotion in order to heal the field once again, to repair it, to bring it back into its whole state. The repairing of this field in the body is essentially what we need in order to rebalance. So this individual here sits in meditation with this emotion and this memory that happened, and immediately can identify the cord, will neutralize that cord, and will shift its vibrational frequency as a whole. Okay, so the repairing of this cord, essentially, now what happens in the chakra system at the macro level is this. Okay, so let's go back to the chakra really quickly. Okay, so this is the broken, the chakra. Okay, so there are a couple ways of healing this cord in the body. Then we're going to do this in our meditation right now. But what happens is that where the contraction of the chakra took place, it is a heavy stagnation of frequency that is not in resonance with the natural organized flow of the chakra. Remember that the chakra, every single one of these little micro coils, is a vibrational frequency. When the chakra is out of balance in the left and the right side, positive, negative side, contraction and expansive aspect of its movement, we are creating cords from that part of the body to the external, in which this life force is stagnant and depleted. And again, because this chakra is not working, it cannot spin properly. Okay, so what does that look like? Essentially, imagine that the vortex spin of this energy, it can move, right? So because that chakra is stagnant with that thought form, we literally begin to create illness in the body, stagnation. It can manifest as a pain in your body. Okay, this is the most common thing. People start having pains in their body. It can be stomach pain, shoulder pain, headache, leg pain, knee pain, hand pain. Wherever in your body you begin to experience the pain is where you have the stagnation of this energy and cords that are connecting you to thought forms that you are reinforcing through your unconscious state, in a state of hypnosis. Okay, so first we have to identify through the trigger, what is the emotion that was caused here? What is the emotion that we haven't addressed, that we haven't known to address in this circumstance? And take our attention to that part, be absolutely present. And in the feeling of that emotion, you begin to expand the information that has been stalled. And as you access the emotional data that you're holding suppressed within your subconscious there, you begin to release the density of this information. And what happens is that the body starts to heal. The body starts to heal. So as you release that thought form, you begin to heal your field. So this is the most long-standing way to heal the holes in your body. And what you do when you heal is you bring that thought form to a neutrality. That's all you're doing. So whatever thought form, so in that moment, let's go back to the simple example of the trigger of the dirty look. If in that moment, instead of going into survival, into fight or flight, into a state of confusion, overthinking, fear, unworthiness, you immediately gather yourself back into a state of neutrality and reconnection with yourself. You remember yourself as source. Temporarily experiencing this, you don't identify with the thing that happened external to you. It doesn't become your identity, right? So the look that was given triggered feelings of unworthiness, and now you believe you are unworthy. That is a separation of yourself from your source, right? When you are all and nothing simultaneously, how can you at the same time hold the belief system of unworthiness within you? Okay, so the neutralizing of this unworthiness, the question is, am I really unworthy? Am I unworthy in this moment? Okay, and if the answer is no, then why would you need to hold on to this state of survival? Where is the threat in that moment? Now, if the answer is yes, that we end up feeling unworthy in that moment, we want to revisit all the programs that make us believe that we are unworthy. Belief systems about ourselves. This is where we begin to go to war with ourselves. We create a severe separation internal to us. You cannot, every time you identify with something, you become separate within you, because again, you're playing a role. You have to take on the role. In order to be unworthy, you have to play out certain behaviors that make you unworthy based on your belief systems. So we need to revisit these belief systems about yourself. And some of you might discover that you treat yourself as you are unworthy all the time, and so you are contributing to that sense of unworthiness, right? You do things that go against your belief systems. You are constantly at war with yourself. You disconnect with yourself. You criticize yourself. You judge yourself. Of course, you're going to feel unworthy. And the external is a projection of what you feel internally. It's always going to be a projection. So remember this hologram. What did I show you earlier? Right? In the holographic construct of the matrix is not something that you're stuck in, is something external to you. You create your reality. And this is how it is. You are creating within the field of information of your own matrix what you experience. You define it. This is why when we say there is nothing outside of you, it's completely the truth. It's the physics of this experience, the construct of this experience. Everything that you see around you is a projection that you're creating. You want to know why? Because the person next to you has an entire different universe within them. The way that they perceive the color yellow is different than the way that you perceive the color yellow. And your color yellow is based on the input of your DNA, the information that you allow, that you are, those neural pathways that you are strengthening and weakening in your brain functions, in your thoughts, in your emotions, but also in your external, the way you are attaching yourself to the external through identification becomes the role that you are. So in order to work with attachment, all of this to explain the concept of attachment, the individual has to return their attention back to themselves in order to unravel all of the programs that feed into the roles that are being played of separation. And the individual then comes into a reconnection with themselves, reconciliation with all that they are, their contributions. And what happens is that the field heals, right? So the holes in the field begin to become whole again, energetically, psychologically, emotionally, physically, and their perception becomes rebalanced because they begin to rebalance all of those imbalanced perceptions, okay, of how they feel and see themselves. And energetically in the body, what happens is that an integration occurs. We have the ability of entering the 0 point. You are not one side of the circle or the other, you're both. You're at the center of that. And remember, the eye of the storm is always the still. In the eye of the storm is that neutral center of integration where we have integrating the lower, the middle, and the upper dantian, opening the runways of life force, connecting to our source, which is our true expression. The source is experiencing through us all of these temporary experiences of separation in order to go back to that unity consciousness, okay? So let's observe now in the body. What happens is that our entire holographic projection that we're creating in the world starts to change around us. This is how we create collective consciousness. We begin to change through the collective, through our own existence, through our own embodiment of our highest expression. And our highest expression is always going to be in the deepest state of authenticity. We must come into absolute authenticity with ourselves, which means that every time that we identify with something, we understand why. We understand our intention, the input that we're putting into that system, and recollect all of the life force that's being bled out of our body into an external form of identity. Because ultimately, we are all and nothing simultaneously. Okay, that's what we are. So let's go into our meditation. I'm going to come over here into meditation. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Charles says, how do we identify the location in our body that got stagnant energy? Does our private session also help resolve it? Absolutely. So the whole point of, for example, a DNA reprogramming is to be able to sit with your body and begin to train your intuition, okay? We are training you to read your multidimensional body, not someone else do it. I mean, I can sit here and read your entire body inside out with all the information, the traumas, the things that have happened, but it's not going to serve you because you're not going to know how to feel those blockages. What's the purpose of someone else telling you that you have a trauma with your father, which you know, but if you don't feel it, and not you specifically, Charles, just in general, right? Someone has a trauma with a father, and if you don't understand how to identify that, you're going to be disabled in your spiritual evolution, in your healing, in your journey of becoming whole, which is what you're here to do in the first place. So the sessions are designed for you to connect with what information is in your body. And at first, it might feel very difficult to identify this. That's why we go into the emotions. For some of you, you're deeply severed from your emotions. So we go into feelings, we go into sensations. Okay, most of us, it's very easy for us to identify how something makes us feel, in terms of, how often we go into states of survival. We're very familiar with that, right? So a lot of us, we know we're in states of survival. So to reverse that constant state of survival would be to get to know the parts of you that are reacting, and it's very easy, okay? So the physical body, as soon as you have a thought, let's say the thought of unworthiness, that immediate thought of unworthiness in the body creates a stagnation in the solar plexus, okay? And let's say your tummy contracts and you start to feel anxiety. Okay, you feel this all the time. You feel it when you go out into public settings, when you're around people, you feel it in your relationships. You felt it all your life in your families, right? So the body knows, the body is talking to you through that anxiety, through that contraction in your belly. It's talking to you, it's telling you what it needs, because in the belly, in the solar plexus, is the center of the third chakra, which is the center of empowerment. Okay. And so how we exchange information with our external will depend on the information that we're running and inputting and outputting through that solar plexus. That's how you see the world. So we have to correct and rebalance, essentially. So to correct something simply means to rebalance and find its truth. When I say correction, we're just trying to find our highest truth in that experience. Okay. So what belief systems did we just take on because we are the child of that father? Do we actually believe the same belief systems that he does? Are we playing them out in our lives? Are we repeating the patterns that he has shown as an example to us? For example, an unemotional father that doesn't show, affection, teaches us that affection is not okay or not necessary. And then so the human starts to behave that way. They create their personality that way. They even dress in order to play the role. Let's say they just start wearing all this black, dark clothes and then being really just avoidant of any emotion of any kind, right? So these are just very simple examples to help you understand the impact of these powerful belief systems in your life. They make up who you are and they construct the reality that you create and experience. So a DNA reprogramming, for example, looks at these the connections between your programming and how they are expressed in your lifetime. And once we access the root, okay, so the root would be identifying that moment that you took on that belief from the father and reversing it, which means finding what's true and addressing the lies that we tell ourselves or the untruths that we adopt as our identity and neutralizing them back into the 0 point. So you are not that belief system, you're not that suffering, you are not that separation. You no longer have to play that victim role in that experience or in any of the experiences that you created in your life. And many people begin to realize, oh my gosh, I've actually been living an entire life in a state of suffering when I really didn't even agree with that. Okay. So this is how we begin to change completely who we are from the inside out in a way that is deeply constructive and transmutational. We transmute those lower belief systems into the highest truth. And the highest truth is always looking at, again, let's look at creator states. How do we know what is the higher truth? Is if you're looking at it from separation, from duality, you're never going to know the truth because you're always picking one side, right? So if you're looking at it from the center point, that integration point of the all, you're looking at all potential sides, then you can begin to see things a little differently. Okay. And the more you stay in the center state of that, the higher you begin to see the world outside of you from the highest state of unity. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that question. Wonderful question. Let me come over here into the chat, into our Zoom. Thank you so much for these incredible questions, guys. So what is the best immediate response to a perceived dirty look from someone? Right. Okay. So that was just a very simple example, guys. But so let me answer that question in a general way, in a way so you understand how to respond to these circumstances in which you don't know how to respond. The answer is know yourself deeply. Know yourself. Okay. Because in the example of the dirty look, for example, whatever we perceive the other person is projecting on us at that moment, we take on as our identity. Okay, is it true? Is that identity that you took on your true self, right? And so the more you know yourself, essentially nobody can tell you who you are or who you are not. But until you do the work, the shadow work, the deep internal reflection of yourself in order to know who you are deeply inside out, why you do things. And there's parts of us that want to preserve because of the wounding that we experienced in a childhood experience. We want to protect ourselves from ever feeling that pain again. You won't want to sometimes touch those dark shadows of yourself. And essentially the function, the mechanism of separation, which is the ego that is there to help you experience that separation, will do everything possible in order to redirect your attention away from that part so that it can maintain the identity and the personality that was designed for its protection. So this is where people go through deep dark nights of the soul, where we have to see ourselves in the most raw form, which requires absolute truth, absolute authenticity. We have to be super, super honest with ourselves in a way where you can look at yourself, not from the filters of protection and self-preservation that you created towards yourself in order to not feel pain temporarily, but actually the true self, the one that is deeply loving yourself as a whole, in order to assist lovingly and compassionately you out of that state of survival into something that is even more expansive. This is how we experience expansion, okay? And that expansive state of yourself is going to be the freest state available to you, because you understand yourself from the inside out in such a deep way. You know yourself, you know why you do things, you know the intention behind your behaviors. And in this process of coming into your highest state of co-creation, you have to know your intentions behind all your actions. You have to understand why you react in certain ways, why you do things, because you learn about your contribution. Remember, because you create your reality. So we have to come back to the self in order to address those shadows that are not wanting to be seen. And remember that the dirty look happened precisely for that shadow to be addressed. And the dirty look is going to continue to happen until you fix that shadow. Okay? So again, you are refining yourself into the all and nothing simultaneously, constantly throughout your life, which from that neutral state emerges unconditional self-love, unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional love, which then excuse me, expresses out into your experience, and it begins to have a symbiotic relationship with the world around you, which is where you begin to experience synchronicities, magic, love, like real love, not just temporary exchanges. Okay. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Is that, you know, we are healing ourselves. Okay. Alexander says, when I speak my mind truly to people, when they tell me what I need to believe, it creates so much disorder that it's feelings frightening, especially revolving military values, so much shame from other. Okay, so that's a really interesting point, Alexander. When we are expressing our truth, and our truth isn't received by another, you know, we begin to start feeling these emotions. Okay, so here's the other side of knowing yourself. Again, when you know yourself so deeply, when you take the time to know yourself and the intentions behind your communications, remember that you are creating with every thought, every emotion, because emotion is charge, the charge that you're putting into this field of experience. Keep that in mind to begin with. So first of all, let's go to even the bigger picture. Why are we attracting people, places, and things that are not accepting or allowing our truth to be? And when you begin to do the shadow work on that, what you'll discover is that parts of us don't fully accept these communications of ourselves. We ourselves are judging the information, perhaps our own truth or our own knowledge. We have to understand where we ourselves are not in alignment with what we are expressing and being. It's a very interesting work. And when I went through this work in my own personal journey, and I first had to learn what it meant to be fully authentic with myself, because that was a whole trauma that we are not taught to be authentic. Okay. And those of us that come from very strong cultures are often taught to mold ourselves in order to be accepted by our surroundings, right? And in fact, that's deeply embedded in all of our social engineering, through fashion, through culture, through music, through films, and the wrong ideas of what interpersonal relationships are about. You know, so what happens is that we're told to create a very strong identity, and our strong identity is basically formed on borrowed belief systems about ourselves. Okay. And that's where the problem begins, that who we are, for most of us that are just waking up consciousness, is basically something that is constructed based on everything we've taken on from childhood, people around us, the influences of the external on us. But when you do the work, okay, you begin to realize I'm none of those things. None of those things are a reflection of who I am. And you begin to deprogram those belief systems. And what you're going to find at the core, underneath all of these things, you're nothing. You're none of those things. But at the same time, you're all of them. Okay. So in this example, Alexander, when you speak your truth, first understand why you are speaking your truth. We have to qualify our environment. Okay. And the reason why we have to qualify the environment is because if you are in the present moment, observing your surroundings, aware of your surroundings, you understand how to embody the highest expression of yourself in that moment, in your highest authenticity. And when the expression isn't coming from the ego self, the ego can be the survival. It could be the one that is needing attention, confirmation, affirmation, the one that is needing approval, the one that is needing affection. So when we fall into the unconscious dynamics of those kinds of exchanges, we're always going to be met with the resistance, because that is the frequency of the experience that we have wanted to create in that moment. Our intention is to be accepted by this experience. And if our person that we're hoping will accept us doesn't even accept themselves, we have not qualified correctly the environment in a way that what we are trying to get from the other person is going to satiate this need. So right there is a false logic, right? The external feeds me. And when the external feeds you, that's the recipe for depletion of your own energy. Your attention is external, not internal. Okay, so the opposite of that would be like this. You know yourself so well, you have assessed your environment. Your contribution to a conversation or to sharing is always from a place of completion, okay? Not from a place of need. So this, given that you've done the shadow work, you know how to do the shadow work, and you are cultivating yourself as your source, okay? Now, many of you might say, wow, I'm going through such a difficult time in my life. I really need help, and I want to reach out and get help. So that's different, okay? But if you are looking out to get support, you're also qualifying the person that's going to provide you support, okay? But ultimately, we want to reach the point in which we are our healer. We are our source of support. We are the wholeness. And there is nothing external that we require. That will allow the human to be sovereign. And that level of self-knowledge, actually, now you begin to tune into your own source of information. You begin to channel And the power of redirecting your attention from the external to the internal is that you begin to open up dimensional levels of yourself that allow you to access higher truths, not from the ego state, not from the one that needs validation, but the one that is connected through your internal shadow work into your deepest authenticity, where you become all and nothing, that allows you to tap into the infinite source of information. This is what I experienced firsthand, the ability to access this infinite source of information. It has no emotional, it has no ego. It's pure information that isn't tainted by the ego of the individual that wants to compartmentalize into duality of right or wrong. It is pure truth, pure knowing. And when that information enters into the self, it always knows the healing effect of its sharing at the right time and place in a way that will never cause harm or suffering to yourself, for example, through rejection, or suffering to another in a place of an egoic exchange where we demand something in return. Because remember that when you look for attention outside of you, you're also putting a lot of responsibility on the other person to provide that attention. And if they don't have it in their universe, in their toolbox to do that, because they are also in pain, we put a lot of incompassionate expectation on the other person. Okay. And I'm not saying this is your direct example. I'm taking and going to many different potential experiences that could be as a part of this, okay? So the ultimate cultivated self is the whole self that is one. And as a whole, you become a fountain, a beacon of light, essentially. What does that mean? You are your source. You are your source of information, your source of love, your source of completion. And you're a whole that when you interact with any other individual, whoever it is, brother, sister, lover, mother, father, stranger, neighbor, coworker, you hold space. You now become a place of holding space. And so the other person will contribute to their best of ability to you and create this exchange that is harmonious. It's always in a state of harmony because you are a whole. Okay, so that essentially is how we navigate these interactions in the process of becoming whole. Anna Lee, did you have a question, love? Boa says nothing. Yes, I think of advertisers, we need to know how to analyze and create distance when it comes to ads. At least that's what I try to do. Yes, it's true. We want to lessen the interference of the external because those are patterns of information through color, frequency, sounds, vibration that are, entering and trying to influence the body. But I also want to mention that anytime we are in states of survival and separation, remember, you're playing a role of survival. So the idea is to redirect your attention internal. Okay, just connect with yourself, connect with your source, and those external things cannot influence you, even if you're sitting in a room filled with television screens of advertising, because you are your source. Can you remember that the external is a deep projection of that external self? Okay. All right, my love. So let's go into our meditation. If you have any questions, please put it in capital letters so I can answer them, because it's hard for me to see here where there's questions if it's not in capital letters, because I have so many comments. Let me go into the Zoom really quickly to see if we have any questions. I'm so sorry, my hair's a mess. Let's come over here. Again, fixing the shadow is staying with it from a neutral point of view. Fixing the shadow is staying with it from a neutral point of view. Let me answer that correctly. Right, so essentially the shadow is infused with a certain belief system, okay? And that belief system is charged by the frequency of the emotions, which is charge, energy, and motion that you're putting into that belief system. So what we want to do is we want to take a look at that charge, that emotion, and we want to see, is it true in this circumstance? Is this the appropriate charge for this experience? Or is this one potential truth of many? And how is this imbalanced? How is it causing me suffering? How is it not in the highest truth of this central point? So how we're going to do that is like this. Let me show you something really quickly. Okay. The best way to look at it is to understand your emotions and your intentions behind your emotions based on how you are holding dualistic programs. Okay. So for example, the shadow self in the masculine, over here is a list of all the ways that the masculine is wounded. The shadow self of the feminine, here are all the ways that the shadow self, the shadow of the feminine is wounded. So just observe, you know, for in your specific example, how are you, how is your shadow imbalanced in its perception? How can you bring it back into a balance? Okay, so really quickly, let's say the wounded feminine is gossiping, selfish, something like this, very selfish and self-sabotaging. The health of that would be someone that is caring and fair and conscious, mindful of their exchanges. Okay, so you are healing the wounded feminine in the same way you're healing the wounded masculine. Let's say the wounded masculine is angry, aggressive. Okay, the opposite of that would be a masculine that is grounded, reconnected, calm, mindful of their expression. So this is how you're bringing it to neutrality, but you're bringing it to its highest healthiest state. And essentially, when you access these higher octaves through the transmutation of those lower frequency emotions, you begin to enter a state of neutrality because you are looking at it from non-dualistic way. That's how you heal something. Okay, you look at it non-dualistically. You look at both sides. This is the fastest way to heal a trauma, is to look at your perception, put yourself in the shoes of the other person so you understand why they behave the way they do. Put yourself in the shoes of the surroundings and the experiences that are happening around so you understand more than your own perception. You have to broaden your perception in that moment of trauma in order to take yourself out of the victim role that you have created for yourself. And what that helps you do is it helps balance your perception about things. And how we heal that is by understanding that there is no right and wrong. These are all experiences that help us come into this wholeness. It's temporary separation. Okay? All right. Okay, guys, let's go into our meditation. I want you all to get very nice and comfortable. Breathing deeply. Allow yourself to breathe. Grounding yourself into a state of complete neutrality, complete relaxation. With every breath you take, settling more deeply into your body. Allow yourself to relax the nervous system, the crown of your head. down to your shoulders, into your chest, down your spine, into your solar plexus, going down into the hips now, into the feet. Breathing. And beginning to feel the rise and fall in your belly, the oxygen as you breathe. And with every breath you take, let's begin to focus on the root chakra at the base of the spine. Go ahead and shrink that chakra down to the size of a dime, front and back. Going up into the sacral chakra, you're going to shrink that chakra down to the size of a dime. Going to the solar plexus, go ahead and visualize shrinking that chakra down to the size of a dime. Going up into the heart, I want you to expand that heart chakra front and back, opening the center of unconditional love. Breathing. Going up into the throat, expanding that throat chakra. Going up into the third eye, expanding the third eye. Go up into your crown, go ahead and expand your crown chakra. Okay, very good. Let's go deeper. Go ahead and visualize from the center of the earth a powerful ray of green life force that comes rushing up into the body, creating a vortex of energy. From source, go ahead and bring down a powerful ray of gold energy that comes down, combining with the green earth energy. Go ahead and take 10% of that, send it back down to the center of the earth. Eliminating out of the body any tension. Go ahead and take 80% of that, send it up your spine and from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your body. Okay, so this is where you can actually begin to work with the chords in your body. Go ahead and tune into your field. Imagine the bubble around your body. And I want you to visualize calling back your life force from people, places, and things back into your body. I'm going to take that life force now, bring it into your body, this final 10% green and gold energy, absorb it into the pores, the flesh, the muscles, the pores, down to the cellular level of the body. Breathing. Okay, I want you to begin to observe your body now, and to connect with your body, we're going to go deeper. And I want you to begin to review the things that you are most attached to in your life. Take a look at that. Something that you have a hard time detaching from. Something that you are deeply identified with. It can be a person, place, or thing. Okay, and as you bring this up, go ahead and notice in your body the emotions that become triggered. Immediately pay attention to the thoughts, emotions. Notice the part of your body that tenses up the most in this moment. Be absolutely present with that part of your body. Go ahead and name out the emotions. Go ahead and notice the most powerful emotion that comes up in that moment. Be absolutely present. Notice how your body contracts. Notice how it responds. And just observe what is being protected in that moment. Who is being protected? Take a look at that. I want you to see that part of you in front of yourself. You're going to see it like it can be a little being. I want you to observe its body language. How is it dressed? How does it feel? How does it look? And just by observing that body language and the emotions, you're going to feel it both in your body, simultaneous to the imagery that you are creating for yourself here. You're looking at a part of yourself, at a wounded part of yourself right now. This is really important. This little part of you that you're seeing in front of you is actually what's running your subconscious mind. It is running the emotions, the actions, the intentions behind the things that you're doing in order to sustain it in a state of survival. So just observe for a moment. What is the primary program that this little part of you is running? Allow yourself to access the root belief system. Allow yourself to identify, what does this little part of you need in order to no longer feel this way? And first observe from the external, what would it need in order to not feel this way? If you could get anything that it wanted, that it needed. So now begin to redirect your attention back to its little self. What does it need from itself in order to no longer feel this way? Notice your body language. Notice the parts of your body that contract when it begins to identify those needs. Okay, just observe that. And just gently allow it to begin to change. Breathing. With every breath you take, as you see this part of you beginning to absorb all of these wonderful things that it requires in that moment. Notice its transformation. And continuously asking the question for any thoughts, any resistant thoughts that it might have. You want to ask, is it true? Very good. As you see these parts of it coming whole, we're going to go now into our multidimensional body to begin to observe where in our body that cord has been created. So go ahead and see all the people, places, and things that trigger this little being to come into a state of survival. Just see them in front of you in a crowd. Okay. And I want you to shine your light on top of them, and I want you to see a contract in front of you. This contract represents all of the programs that you're running in resonance with these people, places, and things in order to trigger this belief system. Okay. And allow yourself to begin to dissolve that contract. Very good. As you dissolve that contract, I want you to see the cords connecting your body to these people, places, and things, and go ahead and notice what part of your body it shows. What part of your body is holding that cord? And gently allow yourself to uproot the cords from them. Okay, you are neutralizing back to 0 point. We've already done it through the deepest emotional part, through the being. Okay, we've transmuted the being. Okay, and that completely changed your programs emotionally. So now energetically, you're already changed the seed of these belief systems in your body. So now the cord that is feeding off this belief system will no longer be sustained. So go ahead and see that cord in your body, and I want you to pull it out. Visualize a vortex of white light from source. And source is the infinite potential. It is unconditional love. So you're going to direct this cord into that unconditional love, transmuting it from whatever state that it's in. And you might see dark roots of a tree, wires. You might see whatever it is that you see in your body. Pull it out, okay? And as you pull it out, be very thorough. These cords might connect to several parts of your organs, layers in your body. Be very thorough using your intuition to clear it out. Okay, as you clear it out, you're going to bring white source light from the crown of your head into your body, and you're going to fill whatever you took out with this white light. Okay, breathing deeply. Take the time to heal the body. And now what I want you to do is you're going to let all of those aspects leave your space now. All the people you brought forth, let them leave your space. I want you to take a look at your root chakra and the field of your root chakra. You're going to repair it completely. Letting go of all the programs in the root chakra that you have of imbalanced attachments and exchanges. Go ahead and neutralize that. You're going to go up into your sacral chakra. Go ahead and clear and heal the sacral field. Letting go of all the programs of attachments that you have in the sacral chakra. You're going to go up into the solar plexus. Go ahead and clear and heal all of the holes in your aura and your field and the third layer of your body that you have. And you're opening these chakras about 6 inches wide, okay? So that you're fully aware of where these chakras are coming out of balance. You want to maintain those chakras in balance all the time, as much as you can, by being in a constant state of presence. You're going to go up into the heart chakra. Go ahead and release all the programs of attachment, imbalanced attachment that you have in your heart. You might find that these attachments not even are to people, but to your own belief systems. So go ahead and neutralize them, clear them out. Go up into the throat, same thing, clear it out from the throat, heal the field of the body in the throat. And go up into the third eye. Okay, go up into your crown. I want you to illuminate that crown and activate the 9th, activate the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, 17th, the 18th, the 19th, 20th, 21, 22, 23, and 24, and above you is a powerful white light of source. Go ahead and anchor that white light down into your body. Anchor it in through the body, down through the perineum, into the center of the earth. Breathing deeply. I want you to shine that light on top of all the karmic contracts, clearing them out. Bring yourself back into 0 point. Go ahead and open your eyes. With your eyes open, bring yourself back into the room. Okay. You guys did amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to take just a couple more questions. Jessica Anderson asks, when we shrink our first three chakras, does it somehow reduce how much we can receive Gaia energies? Absolutely not. Remember that you are this matrix. You are the matrix. So your perception to the external world completely depends on whether your chakras are out of balance or not. So the size of the chakras represents what you are enhancing in your filters of perception. Okay, so when you bring these first three chakras into health, harmonious health, they're rotating and spinning in a healthy manner, the perceptions are balanced in all three chakras, they create an integration in the lower dantian, and that is the cultivation of your creative life force in this matrix. So this essentially really becomes a very healing and mastery over the emotions, which is the number one thing. Those emotions are the creative and healing energies that will allow you to connect to creation. Okay. How do we access our higher self even though we are in self-conflict? So essentially, you have access to your higher self at any time, at any octave of frequency. Your level of disconnect with yourself will cap the level of connection that you have with your highest potential vibrational frequency. So come into your deepest integration with yourself as much as you can, doing the shadow work that will open up your vision and the frequencies that you're able to access. Okay, but you always have connection with your higher self right here in the present moment. So essentially what you want to do is when you come into the present moment, you cannot be in conflict with yourself, because you are in absolute authenticity. You're absolutely present with yourself and your surrounding in a state of non-judgmental observation. And when you're in that state, there is no conflict internally. You understand that you're just the experiencer of this moment. Source is experiencing through you. You are not being experienced. You're not just experiencing these external things. And immediately it neutralizes all of those compartmentalized ideas of separation within you. Okay, so that's a little quick way that you can do that. Love, love, love. I cannot find your question, love, love, love. You said you posted it above. Oh, my understanding of prophetic dreams is that they are the ability to tune in activities and events in a higher realm before they materialize in this realm. Therefore, are the prophecies found in scriptures thousands of years ago the ability of the prophets to tune in profoundly higher realms? For example, 195th dimension instead of 12th dimension, and this is because of their ability to purify their bodies. Okay, so remember that time is not linear, it is simultaneous. So we are tapping in to simultaneous timelines at all times. That's what's happening. Prophets or these seers, which you are as well, have the ability of tapping in to these dimensional layers. And the more you purify your filters into a state of neutrality, the more neutral and more true what you tap into will be. Okay, every time that what you tap into is filtered by the ego, emotions, belief systems from the physical human perception, you will never be able to access these higher dimensional realms of information. You're always going to see them through a certain filter. So we have absolute ability to tap into that information. Dreams are the navigation of those dimensional realms, but we are always navigating. What we need to do is we need to gain lucidity and consciousness in the navigation of those dreams, because you are all dreaming every single night. You're all traveling. To dream is to travel in higher dimensional planes, but your ability to connect that experience with your human body is a powerful tool of integration, healing, and expanding of your soul awareness into your ability to become whole again with the collective. So this is something that has to be gently cultivated. You become lucid in waking state, you become lucid in dream state, and your dreams that are prophetic. Remember, because you're in neutrality, you don't identify with any one timeline. You observe, you hold space, and you anchor all highest potential timelines for the healing of the experience that you're currently in right now. That's the number one thing. That all of your actions, thoughts, beliefs, intentions are in alignment with creating health for yourself and the collective simultaneously. It goes beyond just the internal experiencer, because sometimes we are fascinated with the idea of prophetic dreams without understanding the responsibility of holding space for the internal change necessary to anchor these wonderful potential timelines into the earth. And they just simply become entertainment rather than transmutational work, which is what they're there for in the first place. Okay, so if we want to materialize something, for example, collective healing, ascension for the collective, we have to be first the channel of that, the embodiment of that, and then hold space for that. And that is a complete cultivation of yourself. It's another way of existing in a state of unconditional love and neutrality. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. Love you very much. Thank you so much for joining the chat, and I will see you soon. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.